Good morning, welcome to Catex TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Friday, April 24th, 2015. If you want to follow us on Twitter, go to Catex TV. Midweek this week, on Wednesday, two relatively strong earthquakes, 4.4 and 4.0, hit central New Zealand. Yesterday, or actually earlier today, I should say, a 5.9 earthquake, which was originally reported by New Zealand authorities as 6.3, struck the same area. Office buildings in Wellington swayed. It was Anzac Day, Australia and New Zealand Day. There were parades in progress, outside festivities, and people ran madly from the streets because they feared things would be falling off the buildings. There were no reports of any tsunami alerts, nor were there any injuries or damage reported. However, the buildings did shake. Two sharp jolts were felt locally. There was also a local aftershock in the region as well. Chilean authorities are saying that they fear a new crater could be opening up at the Calbuco volcano, which has already erupted twice. Authorities are on alert now for a possible third eruption as early as today, say seismologists in the area. The Calbuco volcano is located about 600 miles south of the Chilean capital of Santiago. There's still a mandatory evacuation order and an exclusion zone in place 12 miles around the volcano, maintained by the military. Some 5,000 people have already been evacuated. The Chilean president, Michel Bachelet, flew to the area yesterday and said, "We don't know how the situation is going to evolve. It's pretty unpredictable." She said that Calbuco is one of the three most dangerous volcanoes in Chile, but even though everyone knew it was active, there was no warning ahead of it erupting. It had not erupted for 50 years. Earlier today, there was a tense meeting between Eurozone finance ministers and the Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis. Varoufakis heard that the Eurozone is not going to give the leftist government any more aid until Greece agrees to a complete economic reform plan. The chairman of the Eurogroup of finance ministers, Jerome Dijsselbloem, slammed the door on a request for early cash in return for just partial reforms. He said that the remaining 7.2 billion euros in frozen bailout funds would no longer be available, and Greece's creditors would not talk about a longer-term funding and debt relief program until Athens concluded a full interim agreement of debt reduction. After the meeting, Varoufakis spoke to reporters outside. It may seem as if he didn't attend the same meeting. He spoke about how the negotiations were progressing smoothly and was very optimistic for a completion soon. It's unknown whether or not he in fact was at the same meeting, although he was present. Hedge fund managers who are involved in reinsurance firms will not immediately face new limits on their use of insurance in offshore tax havens because the IRS proposed that the new tax rules that they're contemplating not become mandatory immediately. They only submitted the rules for comment. Internal Revenue Service rules released yesterday will only take effect after the agency takes comments over a 90-day period. This is all in response to a letter last August from then Senate Finance Committee head Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, saying he was concerned about a loophole that allows hedge fund managers to limit their personal income tax bills by routing investments through insurance companies in low-tax jurisdictions, translation Bermuda. He wrote the letter to the Internal Revenue Service. Ordinarily, hedge fund managers' profits from trading are taxed as short-term capital gains, can see rates of up to about 43%. Insurance companies only have to pay taxes on the reserves when they're sold, giving the hedge fund investors the ability to defer taxes and pay the lower rates, 23.8%, that would apply to lower capital, long-term capital gains tax rates. That's a big difference. The United States has sought to target firms that have less of a focus on underwriting insurance risks, a distinction that can be complicated. Metrics that usually classify companies are based on claims costs, reserves, or investment income can be misleading because figures fluctuate year to year based on financial markets and the frequency of claims coming from hurricanes. We've cited this quote before from the chief financial officer of Third Point Re, which is a hedge fund reinsurer, Chris Coleman, Quote, anyone that spent a day in our office would clearly see that we're a real insurance company. Evan Greenberg, the CEO of ACE, cited the IRS push to adjust tax treatment of insurers as an example of, quote, the runaway regulatory environment that he said is hurting an essential industry. It should be noted that Mr. Greenberg is starting a reinsurance venture in Bermuda with the hedge fund BlackRock. The proposed 550 million euro purchase of the remaining stake of the French reinsurance broker Gras Savoye that it did not own by Willis will not only give Willis a commanding share of the reinsurance brokerage business in the French market, but it could be expanded to include a significant presence in the French business-to-business market. This is an interesting couple of comments from the Willis Group CEO Dominic Casserly, quote, although it's not fashionable, France is the fifth largest B2B market in the world. It has both a very strong regional market capability with offices around the country and is the lead player in the middle market and has more multinational firms headquartered in Paris than in any other area. He intends to use the platform, wholly owned now by Willis, of Gras Savoye, to jump out and try to reach this market. Authorities in the Canary Islands off the coast of Africa are reporting that fuel oil, possibly from a sunken Russian fishing boat, is washing up on the southern coast of one of the islands. The Venagara Beach on Gran Canary Island, which is a top European vacation spot, apparently is in the midst of being hit by a 2.5-mile-long oil slick that Greenpeace, at least, is saying comes from the Russian trawler Oleg Nayanov that sank on April 14th, about 15 miles south of the island. It was carrying 1,400 metric tons of fuel oil. And the insurance industry in Australia is bracing for possibly as many as $400 million worth of claims as a result of that intense storm that ripped through New South Wales earlier this week that saw 200,000 people in Sydney lose electricity for a period of time. The Insurance Council of Australia is reporting that the claim count has now reached about 30,000. They say that the industry losses are now at about 200 million Australian dollars, but they expect this to double. Meteorologists are warning that another severe storm is set to move up from Antarctica and affect New South Wales over the weekend, bringing more heavy rain and strong winds. Here in the northeastern United States, the temperature this morning was about 35 degrees. There's a cold front that has the entire northeastern part of the country in its grips right now. That's the news for today. Have a good weekend. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on Monday.